Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Company of Heroes developer live stream for May. My name is John. I am one of the community managers on the team, and I'm very excited to have you folks all here. So thanks to everyone that's joining us live, and thanks to all of you that are watching this after the fact. Quick introductions. I guess I'm just super excited and over the moon to have the art team here with me, or a couple of folks from the art team. So let's start with you, Christian. How about you tell us who are you and what do you do on Company of Heroes?
Well, hi. First, I'm excited to be here with you too, John. So let's not, no, let's say that so that we know. Hi, my name is Christian. I'm the principal character artist and lead on Company Heroes 3.
Amazing. And last but certainly not least, we have Amar.
Hi guys, I'm Amar. I'm a senior artist on Company of Heroes. Working with Christian here to make things look awesome.
Terrific. So we've got lots to discuss today, folks. But if you want to stay up to date with everything that we're doing, typical plugs, you're going to want to stay up to date on all your Company of Heroes news by following us on your social platform of choice: Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, or YouTube at Company of Heroes. You can join the co-development program by signing up at companyofheroes.com. And also find our forums at community.companyofheroes.com. You can join our official Discord server where you can chat with us live, discord.gg/company of heroes. And of course, be sure to follow right here on Twitch, twitch.tv/relic entertainment, and leave those notifications on so you can find out when we go live. And if you're watching this, I think in the first couple of days after this goes up, we are actually doing a promotion on the community website right now, community.companyofheroes.com, where if you opt into our newsletter, you can actually get a free copy of Endless Space 2 from our friends over at Amplitude. So be sure to check that out. There's an FAQ there as well on the community forums that can help you out to make sure that you can redeem that. But that's going to be up for, I think, a few days after this goes live. So what are we talking about today? All things art. We're going to be talking about units. We're going to be talking about their personality, their variety. We're going to be talking about weathering, destruction, and so much more. Of course, we're going to be answering some of your questions along the way. And of course, if we have some time at the end, we can maybe do some rapid fire from Twitch chat. Christian, Amar, before we really get into it, the thing that I always like to ask the team is, what has it been like working on Company of Heroes 3 for the last 3 years? Especially now that players have been able to go hands-on with the game a couple of times. They've actually been able to see what you've been working on. How does that feel? Christian, maybe let's start with you.
Yeah, well, it's definitely been busy for sure. It's been a roller coaster with COVID and everything, and trying to balance all of that. But in a way that sometimes works to our benefit. I just put so much more focus into the project, and it does feel great. It feels great to have it out there and people playing it. I think as an artist, though, you're always just kind of like, I hope they like it, because you just put so much into it. Every detail, so much time and energy into all that art. And yeah, you just it's exciting, and you just hope that everybody likes it.
Awesome. What about you, Amar? How's it been like working on Company of Heroes the last little bit here?
It's been quite the ride, really. So like a little bit about my background. I've worked mostly on indie games and smaller studios, and one of the things that I love about Company of Heroes is that when I tell people that I'm working on it, they're like, know what the hell I'm talking about. So, which is really cool. And the the other thing, like Christian was saying about doing this project during COVID has been real change for everybody. I think like we're really kind of he said like it allows us to really focus on it, and I think that's true. But it's really it allows us to dig down and to kind of anchor something in our lives for all of us together. When in a time when a lot of anchors are getting kind of pushed aside or
Yeah.
falling away.
Yeah.
So it's been a real experience in that way. It's like really in terms of how we're kind of gelling as a team. I think there's parts there that it's just would have been different, a little bit more superficial if this pandemic hadn't happened.
Yeah, of course.
Yay for pandemic. Only for some things, but
yeah, it's definitely been rough.
a lot of the
And
other.
yeah, working from home has been interesting, but hopefully, think things start to get a little bit better. And I know we're being careful about getting people back in the office, but it would be good to get us all there so we can start collaborating again in person. So Amar Kristian, the term or the title artist is like super broad. You can cover anything and everything. And I think there's like a million people at the studio with, artist in their title. So can you maybe describe what it is that you actually do in a bit more detail, and what your day-to-day might kind of look like? Amar, maybe we can start with you.
Sure. So yeah, I mean, I do like a lot. So as I mentioned, I kind
Yeah.
of I come from a background of wearing a lot of hats, and I that's because I like that. So and it's the same at Relic. So day to day, I'm in um I'm actually in our art creation tools, like creating things, working on the tanks, working on our units, working on making things look awesome. But another part of my job is definitely to help other artists to make things look great too. So I deal with a lot of our external development partners as well, and help them to make sure that their art is kind of up to snuff to work cohesively with everything else that we're doing, and deliver to our fans like the best possible company of heroes we can.
Awesome. What about you, Christian? What is it that you actually do? Come on, like let's get down to brass tacks here.
What do I do?
Yeah,
Amar, you tell the audience what I do.
Uh,
No, don't do that.
yeah.
So by trade, I'm a character artist.
Mhm.
Generally, what I do is I focus on building and constructing the characters. So more so probably a year and 2 years ago with the initial construction of a lot of the characters. So what that means is like building a jacket for an American, um, looking at the reference of the jacket, we have 3D tools and cloth simming tools so that you can make this jacket look as realistic as possible. So, working on the M1 helmet, building that, constructing that, building the art all in 3D, texturing it, applying materials, making sure that looks realistic. So at a granular level, like that's what I do, or a vehicle, I got to build the Sherman tank, the M4A1. I hadn't built a vehicle before, so my career has been mostly characters.
Yeah.
But the vehicles fall into sort of the characters, it's units, which is what I'm responsible for. So that was just a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Because the amount of research and detail you have to, and Amar knows this because he actually supervised most of the vehicles that went out to ArtSource, and yeah, so that's on a daily basis. That's what I normally would do.
Mhm.
But at this part of the project now, it's more sort of iterating and polishing and looking at everything, making sure that the patches that the units are wearing are correct, and that the colors are correct, and that things aren't exploding and melting, in a bad way, not a cool way.
Yeah.
So, because as a lead, you kind of have to oversee everything and make sure everything is working,
Right.
technical problems, responding to feedback. So, yeah, days. It's a lot of juggling, but
Yeah.
it's good.
So a couple of questions from the Twitch chat that I wanted to put in front of you. The first one is maybe a bit of an easier one, but
Good.
like if we were to show the game today, would you say that like the visuals or the models or effects and all that stuff, is that stuff done, or is there still lots to do?
Well, that's a hard question to ask any artist.
Yeah.
For artists, nothing's ever done. There's always more you could do. There's always deeper you could go. There's always more detail you could add. What I would say though is that it is looking better than it's ever looked before. Like I've seen some screenshots of our most recent builds, like up to yesterday morning, and if there's been a few where I've just been like, "Holy cow, this is the game I'm working on. That's amazing." um, so it's something definitely I think we can be very very proud to share
Yeah.
with people.
So
Yeah, for sure.
this one, Christian, might be a little bit more up your alley, and probably a little bit of a harder question, but I'm going to put it to you anyway. Um, uh, Someone in the chat was asking how and why do we pick certain models and weapons for our game? Like, are there certain aspects that we're looking for? Is it like, hey, we want something that looks cool, we want something that's historically authentic, do we want something that's easily readable in game? Like, where do we come down when we're picking stuff to actually include on units? How do we get there?
That's a great question, actually. It's there's a lot of pieces to that because as you asked the question, I was kind of thinking, like, how do we? So actually, a lot of that comes down top level from design. So the designers are sort of like the first line of defense. They're kind of deciding what units we want in the game, and they have the best understanding of the time period and the IP, and they know what weapons that they should be wearing. They're wearing their weapon. They're carrying. Well, they wear some weapons. So they do a lot of that because they also want to make sure that the abilities go with the unit and that weapon and that kind of thing. So for that, when it comes to say like what the unit looks like, an infantry of a certain squad, that's would come down to a little bit of the concept artist, which we have an awesome concept artist, Felix, here, and he'll do a lot of that research and sort of present this is an American infantry. This is maybe wearing that kind of thing. So he does his research, and then it goes to the artist. Then we go to me or outsource, and then kind of vet that too, because then it'd be like, well, actually, that jacket is not the correct jacket for that time period. So we do have to do additional research. So it's a bit of a process. So like this is actually the jacket because this is early war. We want to make sure that this is what is getting applied to the unit. So there's a lot of things. And yeah, of course, a lot of times it's something that you want that does look cool, but it might not be authentic to the time period. So we have to kind of balance that a bit.
Yeah, for sure. So just to set up our conversation, I know we're kind of like already in the weeds, but I want to do a little bit more setup here. So if folks haven't seen it yet, both Kristian and Amar did absolutely fantastic dev blogs and write-ups on the official forums. So you can go and check those out in some of the pinned posts over there. Kristian did a great one on unit authenticity, and Amar did a follow-up on unit weathering and damage. So be sure to check those out. So we'll talk a little bit more about that today. But also, we're going to quickly play our latest dev diary on art and authenticity, just to, again, sort of set up our discussion today. So if you haven't seen it, stick around. We're going to play that, and then we're going to come right back with Kristian and Amar and answer some more questions. So don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.
Authenticity has always been a very important part of our franchise, a pillar really. And on the art side, in order to really achieve an authentic game, we need to do a lot of research online. We talk to historians, we talk to the community quite a bit.
Unlike Co 1 and 2 in previous games, things like damage and wear and tear was kind of baked down into the vehicle. So you'd have your Panzer and it would have some grit and dirt, and that was just baked on the unit. What we're doing this time is we've actually invested heavily in this complex vehicle shader. And what that allows us to do, weathering, charring, and damage. So your vehicles are affected by the environment now. Over distance, when you're driving across the map with your Sherman tank, the type of dirt that you would see on the terrain is the same dirt that will start to appear on your vehicle. So from the ground up, that stuff will start to appear. The next aspect of that is the damage. We actually have regions defined on vehicles. High impact damage coming from artillery. You're gonna start to see those bullet impacts showing up. You'll see the damage on your vehicle, depending on where you're hit.
When I'm looking at Co3 and ways that we can infuse story into our art, vehicles comes up a lot. For example, things like the attachments, accessories that we put on vehicles, from soldiers' helmets to backpacks, bed rolls, that kind of thing.
Effects art direction for COH3 is in the same vein as COH1 and COH2, but closer to the realism end of the spectrum instead of the Hollywood end of the spectrum. On COH3, we try and create this authentic experience. For effects, is going through all the reference that we could possibly find. We watch reams of World War II documentaries, read some books, technical diaries, just to try and get a sneak peek of what does this weapon look like when it fires? What happens? What does this explosion look like in real life?
The paper doll system was a phrase that our art director Tristan coined, or maybe it was me. Actually, maybe I should take the credit. I think maybe I don't one of us. We wanted to make things more modular and shareable, reusable, swappable, tintable, to make this stuff as customizable as possible. So what that means is the paper doll is that our helmets and hats are their own thing. The torso, the jackets, the shirts, the sweaters, that's their own thing. We actually take it even to a more granular level, to the level of the patches on the uniforms. The American might be a part of a certain division, and we can actually swap the patches out.
We've put a lot of effort into our unit behaviors and reactions, which really means that units will react to events in the environment, like planes flying overhead, or if an enemy is close, their stance will change to become more tense. They will react to explosions, and small arms fire a lot more than they did in the past. All of the units interacting with the environment and the destruction really creates a living battlefield.
So there you have it, folks. A quick quick rundown of everything that we're doing on the art side of things, and some familiar faces in that video. Interesting. So again, just super happy to have both Kristian and Amar here to speak to all that fun stuff. So another cool question that I saw when we were watching that video was about how do we keep everyone on the same page with art design and art direction on Co3? Is it like one person who's sort of making the call, or is it sort of everyone weighing in? Kristian, how does that process sort of work?
Yeah, I mean, that's definitely a combination of definitely your design team and your art director, and even high level, production. Everyone has to, everyone's going to have some input and some say and stuff, So yeah, it's definitely a team effort. There's no one person that's just like, it's just such a big game, and there's just so many aspects to it.
Yeah.
So much stuff that it does take a group of people making those decisions and things. So
yeah.
Yeah, and we have some keys to help us too, like so that when you are working alone, you can always kind of refer back to our pillars to support those things, which is helpful to you. And then you've got, like Kristian said, a whole body of people who um, will keep you honest, right? Because it's easy for any artist to kind of spin up and go into the details and just get absorbed in a thing. And so but we're always constantly bouncing stuff off each other. So it's
course.
it's super helpful to get all those eyes on it and get kind of pulled back into the focused on the things that are important.
Yeah, and Amar, you should be doing my job because that was the perfect segue. So I was about to ask specifically about those key pillars that are sort of driving Co3's art vision, and I know our art director Tristan has spoken about these in the past on the forums. So those are Life at War, Cinematic Realism, and a Living Battlefield. So I'm very curious, how do those pillars help guide the work that you're both doing? Kristian, what about you?
So just trying to be being authentic as possible means having to do like a lot of research and deep dive. You can't just always just jump on a piece of art and just sort of create. I mean, you really have to, if you want to stay true to the time period, then there are things that changed over time throughout the course of the war. The details on the uniforms, the tanks, they started off, I mean, there was an earlier version and then there was a later version. So to keep things in the authentic realm, you have to make sure that when you're researching, you're keeping an eye on those years, like 42, 43. Okay, so there's that, and that's a big part of it. And Life at War and Realism, it's like we work at a really high, we look at a really high level of detail on our art. Really, even though RTS, things are small, you can zoom in, and we always work at a very high fidelity. And we make sure even with the heads, they're actually constructed from real world life scans of people. And we try to keep We try to have ethnic diversity. You have a little bit more of that, or a lot more of that, in an American army than you would in a German army. So we're trying to be authentic and as realistic as possible, and it goes to even the materials. Like you're trying to make that stuff look as realistic as possible. Because that's and give it some history, grime and wear and rust, tears, because that's what war was like.
Mhm.
So we try to put that stuff in there.
Yeah. What about you, Amar? How do the pillars sort of guide the stuff that you're doing?
Yeah, so I mean, they like I was saying before, they keep us grounded in kind of what we're doing. To riff a little bit off of what Christian was talking about. We do a lot of research to make sure that things are as authentic as possible. Like, he was saying that, every year there's a different tank, and it was literally like every time that they fired up the factory and rolled out a new batch, they'd make little tweaks, little improvements, little changes. To try and keep their soldiers alive. Um, so we do a lot of research and diving into those details to make sure that we're getting that stuff as right as possible. Um, and I know, again, we talk with other people in the team. We have like daily reviews of all of our work, and because we're all have our eyes on it and our brains in it, we can catch things that other people sometimes miss.
Yeah, for sure. Christian, I think you already mentioned authenticity, and we say that word a lot around here. We say that we want Co3 to feel authentic. So what does that actually mean when we say that out loud? And how are we sort of trying to build an authentic game?
Over to you, Amar. No, it's fine. Yeah, I mean that's always the balance of trying to stay true to the time period. So, for me, what that means is, because I do a lot of deep dives on, like, even that one you're showing right there, the Ranger, um, into like the iconography you would have on a uniform. Divisions and infantry, the different squads and understanding all of that stuff. So, you know, um, it's easy to pick a cool patch for a Panzer division that looks really interesting, but they were in the Eastern Front.
Right.
So you're like, oh, I really need to kind of do my research and due diligence to figure out, like, well, what were the Panzer divisions in Italy? And, like, why did they wear this? And why did the vehicles have that marking? And so I've spent countless hours, like, just trying to figure out what are the markings you would see on a German tank? What do they mean? Where do they go? That kind of thing. Same with uniforms. And just trying to stay true to the time period with what and who was there at the time, and trying to show that in the art. And that even answer the question, or did I just?
I think you did, yeah, about like really capturing sort of that authentic feel.
All right.
So I know, like, authenticity and unit personality are really one of the hallmarks of the franchise. So Christian, specifically for you, like how does that factor into when you're designing units, working on vehicles? I know you mentioned like some of the patches and decals that you have to apply. Is there anything else that you're sort of keeping in mind? Like, especially, I'm also thinking about like unit personality, right? Because like we're making a game, and we're making a real-time strategy game. So often, like, readability of units is super important, right? So how do you sort of tackle that while keeping things authentic?
That's a really good question. So with that, it's like you want your different squads to look different. You want your infantry rifleman squad to look different than a scout squad. Your scout squad, you want to be, say, a little bit lighter. They're out there scouting. I mean, that's what they do, and so they have a certain kind of gear, and they're represented a certain way where they kind of look and feel lighter. Whereas an HMG squad, they're going to look different. They're going to have those the bullets, that are kind of crossed over on them. They're going to have a motor squad's going to have certain kind of gear that really stands out. So a silhouette is really important. You got to be able to, with RTS, look from that top-down camera and be able to see that stuff. And be able to tell which squad is what. So we think about silhouette quite a bit, what the gear is on the unit, and the color. So we can, because this stuff is very modular, you can easily change the color of certain things. The jacket on this squad could look different than the jacket on that squad. Like slightly different shades of olive drab can help. So it's all of that stuff that we put into even the details on like the patches.
Mhm.
So like the infantry, they might have like certain sort of, or the rangers will have certain sort of patches and helmet flashes that'll be different than the infantry. They have different ones. Rangers had flashes right on the back of the helmet, so we wanted to make sure that we include those details, and that helps from that camera view. So it's all of that stuff, silhouette, color, and just make those squads stand out so that when you're moving them around, you know what's what.
Awesome. So before we carry on, do you two want to do a giveaway? Do we want to give some stuff to the folks that are watching?
Of course.
Let's
of
do
course
it.
we should.
Okay,
Let's
awesome.
give it all away. We'll give you away. Let's give it away.
So folks, we've done this before a couple of times. So if you haven't seen them yet, we have these really awesome Company of Heroes franchise kits that we're giving away. So what we're going to do is we're going to have a keyword that people are going to put in the chat, and then we'll do a random roll, and then we'll get in touch and make sure that we send those out. So let's maybe give away a couple of these right now. So if you haven't seen them before, I don't have one here, but there's some really cool stuff in them. We got these cool pewter figures. Oh, do I have to do the makeup thing? There we go.
Yeah, there it is.
So if you haven't seen this before, this is not just any U.S. Scout. This is our U.S. Scout that Kristian modeled, right? So we took the actual model and we cast it, and that's in the kit. Another thing that you get in those kits is this authentic World War II trench whistle from England, and this was actually something that non-commissioned members and officers would get in the British military, and this was actually manufactured at the same plant where those whistles were produced with some of the same original equipment. So some really cool stuff in there. There's a bunch of like other promotional stuff and things that are focusing on the Italian front. So let's quickly give those away. In the chat, I want you to type !CO3, all one word, !CO3 right now, and we'll do a quick giveaway and send that out to our lucky winner. So let's give that a moment there. Okay. I'm seeing a lot of spam. I'm liking it. I'm excited.
Do it.
So again, this is
really
what
cool.
This is what we're giving away here, folks. So !CO3. Okay, let's roll this right now, and let's see who our lucky winner is. Toe Cutter. Okay, so you are our lucky winner today.
Yeah.
All right, so let's maybe do one more real quick here. So same thing, !CO3 in the chat, please. And we will do this here momentarily. I'm not seeing enough !CO3, folks. I need to see more. More. It's like that scene in that movie where the guy's like more, and he's like yelling at Luke Skywalker or whatever.
I still trying to figure out what that reference is. I was going right to Arnold Schwarzenegger. Come on, you explanations. You're always safe with Schwarzenegger.
All right, let's roll this and see who our next winner is. Unkempt Soma. All right, congratulations to you both. So let's I'll contact you after the stream and get your details. So in the meantime here, let's carry on. I have a question that's probably more for Amar here. I think it's like really safe to say that a lot of the vehicles in any World War II game are kind of the most iconic and easily recognizable, right? So, but with that being said, at the end of the day, a lot of military vehicles are very uniform. They're just like these industrial hunks of metal. So I'm curious, like, how are we breathing life into these things? And what are we doing in !CO3 that we may not have done in !CO1 and !CO2? Like, what's the difference between like a Panzer or a Sherman in !CO3 versus one of those vehicles in !CO1?
Well, that's a great question. There's so much. So I guess we'll start with adding all of our accessories to the thing. So we noticed if when we look at reference research, we do a lot of research. Like I was saying before, tons of research. When we look at the reference, we can see that every vehicle really reflected the squad that was manning that vehicle. From personal messages written on the side of the vehicle, their gear tapped on the outside of the vehicle. Um, uh, Different defensive fortifications that they would, personally build onto the thing. Um, and we try to capture as much of that as we can. And it's like every one of the things that we really focus on as artists is storytelling. And every vehicle, you wouldn't necessarily think of that as a story, but they all tell a story. And we try to capture that as much as possible. The story, of the soldiers who were fighting on that vehicle, and just of the engagements that vehicle has been in. So a lot of that informs kind of how we try to make them stand out a little bit from predecessors. On top of that, we've infused them with a huge amount of technology that we just didn't have back on the previous games.
Right.
Vehicle physics is a huge thing for us right now. Like, all of our vehicles are going to react to moving impacts in the game, and in a kind of a realistic manner, because they're all of that stuff's not necessarily being hand animated anymore. Now we're using a lot of physics to
Yeah.
drive those simulations.
So,
Additionally, we're able. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
sorry to interrupt. Can you maybe clarify that a little bit more? Because I don't think like uh, enough people sort of understand that maybe that difference between like what does it mean to like hand animate vehicles in previous titles versus actually just using like physics in Code 3.
Sure. So yeah, go ahead, Christian. Yeah, it's
Oh no,
that.
I was just that was me deforming to the terrain, and
Yeah.
so the suspension. Either that or I'm swimming
Right.
in
Yeah.
the ocean. You could talk about that a little
Yeah.
bit, but yeah, like
Sure.
that's some of the
So
stuff is like you really the suspension and things.
yeah, basically yes, like suspension, things like that. So if this is our tank here and it's moving forward, right? Like in your traditional game, you would have to animate it when it stopped. If you wanted it to rock forward and stop, you'd animate that. Um, and what physics adds is that animation of it rocking forward when it stops is it will change based on how fast the vehicle is going, the angle that the vehicle is on, things like that. So it adds like a whole additional depth of um, simulation to it, so that you don't see, and it kind of allows you that you don't wouldn't see in the earlier games. Say. So that kind of level of fidelity in terms of how the vehicles move is really helps to kind of ground them in the real world.
Okay. Yeah. No, that's a great explanation. So a bit more of a controversial question, but I think we should address it because we do have the art team here. Maybe I'll throw this one to you, Christian. But
Of course,
from some of the
of course you should.
from some of the earlier footage that we've seen, and from the early pre-alpha previews, we've definitely seen some criticism of Co3's art or its graphics or aesthetics. And from what I understand from my conversations with like Tristan and you folks and the rest of the team, is that a lot of those concerns are probably going to be addressed by things like lighting and rendering of the environment, and a lot of that is still sort of being implemented. And I imagine that the shaders that you both have been sort of working on quite a bit over the last few years also play a big role in that. So I'm wondering if you could maybe speak to that maybe specifically for like units and vehicles, and maybe some of that criticism that we've seen thus far. Because I know we want to try and do a lot to meet our players' high expectations. So I kind of wanted to address that elephant in the room right now.
Yep. Yeah, for sure. So like I would say like the two main things that are top of mind are like unit readability. It was, I think, a concern, right? Like, units are being lost in the environment, which is always kind of a thing that you're struggling with. So this is where lighting comes in. And the other thing was our vehicles look too clean.
Right.
And there's a reason for that too. So to the point of vehicles looking too clean. So Code 1 and Code 2, like those vehicles would have had all the dirt and grime and history kind of baked into the model itself. But because everything is through the shader and it's dynamic now. So the weathering and the dust and the dirt and the grime that you would see on the terrain and in the environment, that's what starts to appear on your vehicle. So we can't put that into the vehicle because then there's just too much going on, right? So, and that kind of just negates the system that we invested heavily in, which is part of the shader. So when your vehicle is rolling through the terrain, it starts to get dirtied up. So that's working now. But way back, because it's so complex, like we've only recently started to kind of get those systems kind of going. And that's the same with charring, and that's the same with the damage. So your vehicle's getting shot up, and that's the exact sound effect it makes. Actually showing up. So we didn't want to put all those bullet holes in the vehicle when it came out of the factory. That's stuff those are environmental factors that are now showing up on the vehicle. So that's what's coming online. So that was one, and the other one with unit readability was that's always going to be the struggle, is trying to make sure that the units are separated and standing out, punched up a little bit from the environment. So when we showed earlier, it's like, we didn't, the lighting is still and always is work in progress, because lighting is one of the hardest things to get right, really, because you can make an environment look great, but then some of the units start to get lost. So we have certain tricks and things and techniques and tech that's designed to punch up the units, and that's coming online too. So though all that stuff is coming, but when we showed previously, like, none of that stuff was even close to being ready yet. But those are the things, and top of mind is always unit readability.
Right.
We want to make sure that those things don't get lost. So
right.
Yeah, we're working on it.
And
we're working on it.
Working on it. So that's like stuff that was all planned. Like, this is just sort of like part of the filing process, right?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. The shader is years of investment, but it's very complex, and it's a lot of tech programming involved. So.
Right.
And part of that is all in service to the kind of the story that we're trying to tell, right? Like, the cost of war is something that we are kind of uniquely positioned to show off now with that investment in that tech, because when you start out, things will look pristine and pretty. Like the Mediterranean is a beautiful place with a lot of really lush environments, and but as the war progresses and as your units progress through the war, they're going to become more gritty, and you're going to really see that cost take place over time, as opposed to just kind of arriving there with things already looking messed up.
So someone was asking in the chat if our vehicles can get all dusty and dirty, can we take them to the car wash? Can we get them cleaned off after the fact?
It's funny that you said that, because our designers are amazing. I just had a pitch from one of our designers. It's like, okay, like, would it be cool? Can we do a thing where you can roll it in and so you get the engineers and you can start to hose it off? And I was like, that might be something for later. Do it now. I'm like, that is actually a cool idea.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know. But that's a great idea. I was like, because like, that stuff does look cool even before it's weathered too.
Yeah. For sure. Yeah. So Amar, I imagine like a lot of the systems that you're working on specifically are really going to add sort of the grit and grime that a lot of players are hoping to see. Can you maybe speak to like some of how the I know we've already sort of mentioned this, but maybe some of the more the nitty gritty, if you will, about how the environment and weathering might affect some of our units?
Yeah, 100%. So yeah, basically we have it now so that when a unit rolls out of the factory, it looks pretty pristine, like this one here, like it has just rolled out of a factory. But over time, it will pick up wear and dirt from the environment. It also kind of picks that stuff up from moving through things. So the more it moves around, the more it'll pick up. Additionally, it's not the same, on a unit every time. So depending upon the environment that you're in, it's going to pick up dirt from that environment. So it's not kind of static and always looking the same. The same goes with charring and uh, damage, bullet holes and artillery fire, things like that. We've invested a lot in the tech so that even an RTS level, if you zoom right in on one of these tanks after it's been hit with a flamethrower, you'll be able to see which side of the tank that it got flamed on. You'll be able to know that whether it got hit in the back armor or in the front based on the damage that appears over time. So that's kind of a level of detail that you don't generally see in
Yeah.
RTS games. Like you might see that in an FPS or something, but
And
not in games with this fidelity.
yeah, and I imagine that's probably like one of the biggest changes from like Co 1 and Co 2 with damage and destruction, right? Is like being able to see like those impact points and some of the actual effects on vehicles.
Yeah,
Yeah.
100%. Yeah. Yeah, that's one of the huge changes. Is the way that we've kind of separated out all these small aspects of the art that goes into a vehicle and kind of parameterized them so that we can modify them on a kind of per vehicle, per environment, per engagement basis.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
that's really cool. So my next question is more about like story. Like how do we infuse the story and maybe some of the narrative into the work that you're both doing? Because I imagine like obviously visuals are a huge part of storytelling. So how does that work? And maybe like where does that inspiration come from? Christian, do you have any thoughts on that?
I always get my inspiration from definitely from like the reference and the research. Really, I mean, it always for me it always comes down to that. Like what was happening in that time period in that area, and how that could affect and help sort of direct the look of the units, and yeah, I mean, for me, I would say that's always kind of a thing, like Omar was saying, the Mediterranean theater is really nice, and early war had things just looked a little bit different back then, so I get a lot of my inspiration for just like the time period and that kind of thing,
Mhm.
and just and how that would and what sort of things would be applied to your units and things. Did that actually answer the question?
I
I'm not
think
even
so.
sure.
Yeah,
I might
yeah.
have, because I think the question and then I just was like, I'm going on my own. Like,
No, for
tends
sure,
to
for
happen.
sure. Like Amar, yeah, I imagine like a big part of storytelling for you is again like that aspect of like weathering and damage. Does that play into anything else that you're doing when you're like, what is this actually going to tell the player when they're sort of playing through a mission or the campaign or whatever?
Yeah, that's a good question. So, I mean, there's a few different ways that we apply those things. So one of them is dynamically, like in real time as you're going through, the RTS portion of the game. But we also have this higher level of our game campaign map, and we're actually infusing the decisions you make there. They'll impact the way that the map and the units look in the game once you go into the RTS section. So it ties back to that story from the decisions you make at the higher level, down to the map level when you're actually running around in there. You'll be able to see if you sent a bombing raid ahead that area that you're invading now looks bombed out, and we try to as much as possible build that into not just the vehicles and the characters, but like the environments as well, the buildings, the landscape actually be physically deformed, effects, what things will be on fire, and that kind of, it speaks to the history of that place and how it's changed in the duration of the game, but also, we infuse a huge amount of research into all of our locations. So we try and bring as much of the history of that place as well before the war and how it's being affected by these things.
Mhm. So in terms of process, I'm curious if when we can compare like maybe some of the tools or some of the processes that we're using now on Co3 to like some of our previous work, have there been any sort of like major changes that have really like helped us deliver a better visual or better game experience for our players? Because I imagine like the stuff that you're both working on, we didn't just like port that over from like Co 1 and Co 2. Like
No,
I imagine we're
no.
sort of building everything from the ground up.
From scratch. Yeah,
Yeah.
everything is from scratch. Like we couldn't. So there's a 10-year. I think there's about a 10-year gap from Co 2 and Co 3, and the technology has changed a lot. I mean, it's a different ball game now. There's something called physically based rendering. So all the materials that we apply on everything, the vehicles and the characters, are realistic. They're physically based. Like when you apply leather or fabric, on an outfit, they're actually real world valued materials, so the stuff looks really realistic. That none of the original art has any of that kind of stuff. So yeah, from day one, we just rebuilt everything from the ground up, and actually that led into us kind of creating this new system, which we call the paper doll system, which I did talk about. What
Mhm.
that basically means is Previously, units were always just kind of baked down, like crunched down to one thing. Like this is your infantryman, this is your your motor squad, this is your tank, everything. But actually, things are shared. So like an M1 helmet is an M1 helmet, so you can use it across any American. So you're kind of building things at the asset level, and then we apply color and tints and decals. So all of that stuff is done systematically, which wasn't before. All that stuff was on the model. So what this allows us to do is we can have a lot more variety. We could share, and like a huge thing is responding to the community. If someone notices something that's kind of inaccurate about a color or a patch or a detail, we can respond quite quickly because it's usually just a really quick thing, a color change or a marking that maybe is not quite in the right spot or the right look. So even on the unit level, like we have all this shader stuff, which gives it sort of that life. But even just the construction was a completely new thing, and that's how everything is built.
Right.
So
Um,
it's quite big change.
Yeah. What are your thoughts on that, Amar? Like how have things sort of changed and like again working on these systems from scratch? How's that been going for you?
Oh, it's night and day, really. So I mean, look, it's just to continue on a bit more with what Christian was saying. When you look at something like the paper doll system, in previous versions of Go, we had like maybe 3 soldiers, and that was all the soldiers. But now, like in a single squad, just because we've kind of detached that helmet, say, um, we can add a lot more personality to the soldiers. They can each have a different tilt to their helmet if they want to, because it's not, all the same model. We can mix and match those things a little bit more, and that also continues, flows out into animation as well, where each soldier doesn't have to have the same animation. They can make different decisions about how they want to stand and what their postures are, things like that. All these little details, I mean, they add together to make uh to really tell this story, and to really kind of um ground us in this world that we're creating, or not that we're creating, what we're recreating would be a better way to put it.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
nice.
Yeah.
I should
um,
also add we have. Oh, sorry, Omar. No, you finish what you're gonna say.
Okay, yeah. No, and so yeah, I mean, we do that with characters, but we can also do that with the vehicles as well. And it allows, I think, over time, it's going to allow us to really kind of respond to the community, and give people kind of what they want to see in their squads, what people want to see in their vehicles, so that we can continue to kind of personalize those things, and allow players to start to tell their own stories.
Yeah, like I was going to add to, if that's okay, John.
Yeah. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Okay. We also have like to build off of that, we have some randomization tech too that we utilize. So like for example, if you were to get down close and you were to look at the American heads, you'll see that there's a lot of them, and they're all quite different, and they randomize amongst your units. So we do have like randomization in some stuff, like the partisans, for example. The partisans were the resistance. They picked up a lot of their gear or stole it from the Germans, so they'll have like some of their gear will be like, yeah, you could tell that was from a British or that was from a German. And when you drop a squad in, there's randomizing color, there's randomizing gear. So because that's kind of how they looked, they just picked up. So we have that's all new too. A lot of more of this randomization stuff, and to the paper doll as well. Like so, the way the vehicles are constructed is you have like a chassis, say for the Sherman M4A1, and then you've got different turrets. The turrets are built separately, so we can have a 75 millimeter or a 105, or we can make a new one down the road, and that can. So because of the modularity of things, we can put things together and take things off. We couldn't do that before. So just thinking ahead in the future, and just want to be able to have this game last for a long time. So we want to be able to keep building off of what we have.
Yeah, absolutely. And that kind of segues into one of the questions that I saw in the chat, which was about like, how long do things take? Like going from like an idea of like, hey, we want to put a Sherman in this specific Sherman, we want to put that in the game. So going from like us talking about that to actually seeing it in game and having it finished, how long does that process sort of take?
1 million years.
A long time. Yeah, it's so I mean, weeks to months, basically. Like every unit takes just building the thing and getting it from an idea into game. Takes weeks and weeks, like easily a month for almost every vehicle or unit that we've seen. I mean, when you start to think about all the processes and all the people that work on it as well. I mean, we have, like, you got animators, riggers, you got tech artists, you got the modelers who are making it, textures. We actually have to go through quite a few steps of just infusing it with technology to get the thing working how we want it to, and then we iterate on all of that. So it's nothing ever works nicely the first time, like nothing does ever. So it requires us to take multiple passes at stuff. So it is very labor intensive, and
Mm.
it's not a thing that people do unless they really love it,
Right.
because it takes a lot out of you, and you have to invest a lot in yourself, and not everything gets that we want to make gets made. Like, we have limitations in terms of how much time that we actually have. We don't have an infinite amount of time to do these things. So we do sometimes go down paths that we have to divert from, or to put on hold, to bring back later, um, because it does take a big effort to realize these things. And that's part of the reason why, in our earlier versions of this, you didn't see all of the details that we've been talking about, and that
Right.
we can kind of show now. It's just because it does take a long time. But
Right.
we want to get stuff in front of the community so that they can see, and we can get feedback, and incorporate their feedback into things that
That's
we do.
that's two segues in a row, Amar, because I was literally just about to ask about player
You are
feedback.
the Segway champion of the world, sir.
Yes.
Because
You
yeah,
see the future.
because this whole co-development process really is so that we can build the best Company of Heroes game possible, right? And we know that we need player feedback to do that, which is why we showed the game so early and in such an early and unfinished state last year, right? So I'm curious for both of you, how has player feedback sort of played a role in the work that you're both doing? Kristian, has anything that like any of the critique or any of the reinforcements that players have been giving us since like July of last year, has that impacted the stuff that you're doing?
Yeah, it absolutely has. Actually, I love co-development. I think it's brilliant. Um, there was some feedback, and I've been using this example a couple of times because it's so significant, really, was that we, like for the Americans, some of the outfits that we'd used early on our units were actually didn't come in, like the M43 jacket, like didn't come in till Normandy. So, but our infantry and a lot of our squads actually had that, where they should have had the M41, which we also had, but should have been the main, like, predominant garment that they should have been wearing.
Right.
And then we got that feedback, and I was like, oh, how did we miss that? And because it is tough researching, because you're going by everything that you can find, and but you can miss that detail. And so, but because we had built things in it, like I was saying, in a modular way, it was really just a matter of unplugging that jack, like, okay, and let's make sure that we are using the M41. And it's like, well, actually, if that's wrong, the pants are probably wrong too. So, which they were. So then it was like, okay, like, let's just, but those edits and that sort of feedback was quick and easy, but it was very valuable, because I want to catch that stuff, And another one too that I can think of was like the German Wehrmacht helmet, that iconic Stahlhelm helmet. Shape was okay, but it wasn't quite, the silhouette wasn't quite hitting the mark that it could
Right.
have.
Okay.
And so someone had given some reference, and so I reconstructed that. So that was great. I loved it.
Awesome. What about you, Amar? Has there been anything that you've seen players sort of speak to that you've been able to take into your own work?
Oh yeah, but we just ignore what the little people say.
Yeah.
We're above
Yeah,
all.
Amar usually ignores everybody and everything.
Amar, you're gonna get me in trouble.
Oh, of course.
Shame.
It's absolutely,
Shame.
and it's yeah.
Shame.
I deserve that. I'm a bad person. Yeah. So we absolutely do take everything that our turtle developers have said to us under advisement. Like, and it has definitely changed some things. Like, it's really helpful. Like, there was a number of tanks that we brought in, and people caught small errors on them.
Right.
That that particular turret wasn't, early in the war, wasn't available that early in the war, and we went back and looked at it, and we're like, oh yeah, they're absolutely right. Like we grabbed the wrong unit for that, or it was in the war, but it wasn't at that time, but it was on the Eastern Front, not in this theater. These small details like that, and even just some one tank we had, I think it was I can't remember, maybe the Churchill. Just the diameter of the barrel wasn't right, and somebody caught that, and uh it was great to be able for us to get out in front of that and be able to
Right.
to fix those types of things before we actually ship the game, so that when it does land in people's laps, it is, as close and as authentic as we can make it. We really make this game for our players. Like, we all love what we're doing and want to do this, but the reward for us is when it makes other people's happy, when it brings joy to other people's lives. And so to be able to kind of work hand in hand with people to make sure to help ensure that that happens, like, it's great. And I mean, I wish every game that I'd ever worked on we'd had that opportunity.
Yeah, no, that's a great answer. So I'm curious, maybe for both of you, like, what were some of the biggest challenges that you faced when designing the stuff that you're working on? And maybe flipping that, what's maybe one of the features or systems that you're most proud of? So biggest challenge, and what's the thing that you love the most that you've worked on? Christian, let's start with you.
Well, I was gonna say some of the tech, but I'm sure Amar might talk a little bit about that because that has been a challenge. But I think like one of the biggest challenges, but I think worked out great, was like trying to sell the idea of building stuff in a different way early on.
Right.
Like just trying to sell that idea that I think like that we thought like this was the way that we should really do it, and where it could take a lot longer, but it will in the end just set us up for more success if we do it this way. So put in the time to make sure that things are kind of built this, really think and be mindful of how we construct. Um, and the flip side of that, I am proud of that. So the paper doll system, I think that I couldn't be happier with how absolutely modular and granular we got on this stuff. And it's cool, and it's really everything is accessible. I can change a lot of this stuff on the fly. So yeah, it's the new system, but it was hard to sell it, but it sold, and it worked out, and
Awesome.
so that's what I'm.
Yeah, and obviously players will see the benefits of that once the game is out. But what about you, Amar? What were some of the big challenges on your end, and maybe once you were able to work through that, what were some of the things that like you're really proud that you're able to accomplish, or that you're looking forward to players sort of seeing the result of your work there?
So yeah, for me, it's like it's more of a kind of a personal challenge. I think just the scope of this game is so huge. Like the amount of stuff, like the physical pile of stuff that's in this
Mhm.
game, from between models and textures, physics, just like all of the pieces. There's so much. Like
Mhm.
we have put so much more into this game than we put into any of the previous titles, including, I mean, when you look at the whole extra layer um, the campaign map. I mean, it's like a whole nother, smaller game on top of the whole thing. It's just a huge amount of stuff. And coming from smaller indie projects to this, for me was like that was a bit overwhelming, like managing all of that and making sure that we could get as much of that into our finished project as we can. And in terms of what I'm proud of, like it's like, yeah, we're doing it. Like
Mhm.
we managed to get all the stuff in there. Like it's so much more diversity, so many more toys to play with.
Right.
Such a larger world to play with those toys in. Like all of those things, we've managed to kind of bring together, and yeah, I'm pretty proud of that.
Awesome. No, I'm just super excited that people are finally going to be able to start to see sort of the fruits of your labor, and sort of see the game in a closer to final state in the months ahead. Um, because yeah, so some of the new
Mhm.
footage and some of the new shots and stuff that I'm seeing are like really incredible, and actually can't wait for players to sort of get their hands on that down the road. But before we wrap up, let's do one more quick giveaway. So again, folks, I want you to start spamming. Hang on a second. Let me set this up so we're ready to go. Start spamming !Co3 in the chat to be entered to win this giveaway. So again, this is one of the Company of Heroes franchise kits with some of the cool stuff like our US Scout and some of the maps and flags and stuff from the game. So spam !Co3 in chat for a chance to win that. We'll give 2 of these away here. So let's that's a lot of !Co3s. It looks like people are excited for the game. I think we did our job here.
Get excited. It's gonna be awesome.
I'm excited for this game.
Awesome.
It's gonna be great.
So let's pick our winner. That is Pillbox. Congratulations, Pillbox. And let's get ready. Let's do.
I knew you could do it, Pillbox. I knew it.
Great name too. That's an awesome name.
Let's do one more. Let's see more ! !Co3 spam in the chat, please. Want to get lots of people here a chance to walk home with one of these kits. Yeah, that's looking good. I'm seeing lots of exclamation point !Co3. I'm getting tongue tied. I'm just so nervous when I'm around both Kristian and Amar because they're really my heroes. You know,
my son calls it a claymation point.
Nice.
You need one of those.
Oh man, I'm gonna always animate them in my mind now.
Yeah, exactly. All right, let's pick our next winner here. Falco, congratulations, Falco Nero. So I will reach out to all of you folks that won after the stream ends. So before we wrap up here, folks, again, if you want to stay up to date with everything that we're doing, you're going to want to follow us on your social platform of choice at Company of Heroes, on YouTube as well at Company of Heroes. Join our Discord, discord.gg/Company of Heroes. And again, follow us right here, twitch.tv/Relic Entertainment, and leave those notifications on so you can find out when we're live. Companyofheroes.com for all of your other needs, along with our forums, community.companyofheroes.com. And that's Endless Space giveaway is Endless Space 2, rather. We're giving away free copies of that if you opt into our Company of Heroes newsletter. So you can find that on the community website as well. So we're going to wrap things up there. Thank you so much to everyone that tuned in live, and thanks to all of you that watched this after the fact on YouTube and Twitch. So final thoughts, Amar. What do you want to leave the people with? What are you excited for them to see come launch?
Just how awesome this game is going to be. Like I'm super excited to see how excited people will be when they get their hands on all the toys that we've been working on. I can't wait. And also, honestly, like I'm excited to play it myself. Like I don't know that I've ever worked on a game like this before where I was actually shocked to like get my hands on it when it actually came out. Like usually by the time
I hope we get a copy. It'd be nice if we get a copy for sure.
Yeah.
Hopefully. That's what I'm excited about.
Yeah, what about you, Kristian? What are you sort of looking forward to, or what do you want to leave the folks with here before we say goodbye?
Yeah, I'm excited about just showing off the art, the level of detail that we put in. I think Amar and I and the artists in general, we like to, we're working at if this was a console, we just like as much high res, high fidelity detail as we can put into that stuff. So when you zoom in, you're still going to look really, really good, So, enjoy looking at the details and the history of the rich history of all the units and the environments and everything like that. So, yeah, I'm excited. I'm excited to play it for sure. I just probably get beaten a lot because I'm not very good.
Yeah.
I'll be just in my Sherman, like, look at all the details here. And then, well, I'll be like, at least the damage is working. That's great. That's I get defeated.
Yeah.
Oh, look, you got all the kinds.
Yeah, you can take solace when you're losing because everything looks pretty.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think we're gonna leave it there, folks. Thank you again to everyone that joined us. Again, I'll reach out to our giveaway winners after the stream and get your shipping details from you. So thanks again. Thank you, Kristian. Thanks, Amar. We will see you folks next month. So take care, and we will see you next time.
Thanks, guys.
Awesome. Bye, everybody. Thank you. Thanks for coming in.